It all started from a conversation where we understood that there was a challenge with students entering the networking courses we're providing. They were struggling with some of the concepts, they were struggling with the technical level, and we needed something where we could build them up, work on a zero to hero principle, where the students could discover, explore, practice and become competent network engineers. This was going to be good for our students at the Open University, as well as good for students in further education, apprenticeship providers and schools as well.
Network engineers, their work is very, very practical, so they need to get hands-on. But you are reliant really on laboratories to some extent when you're teaching this material. So we wanted to get a bit beyond that and use online techniques to help them. So we already had an online networking simulator, so a piece of software that looks and behaves like a network. So we wanted to build on that, develop it a little bit more and use it within some teaching material. We've got quite a lot of experience of that at the OU and in the Networking Academy, which Andrew's involved with.
Yes, so we have a simulator, as my colleagues already described, but we took what was a software simulator that most people would install on their ordinary computer desktops and cloudified it, enabling it to work then on all manner of browsers, all manner of devices. So you could use it on your iPad, or you could use it within a very common web browser. And that way we could ensure that students participating could gain the essential practical skills of configuring a network, seeing how a network works, and also solving problems on the network as well, because competent network engineers do not only need to know how to build a system, they need to know how to fix a system or resolve issues as they occur, which we can do with this software.
That software will work anywhere. You can do it on the train, on your mobile phone, you can do it on a desktop, provided you've got a browser, you've got the resources to learn with. And then the other thing we did is to embed it in a course of teaching material, which we've got lots and lots of experience with at the OU. We've done online learning for years. So that's what we did. We designed a course within which the software would help the students to do practical learning. We have a lot of experience of teaching large numbers of students. So a typical Open University course might have several thousand or several hundred perhaps. So we can make the courses which people can study in their own time and wherever they like to. So that's what we decided to do. We decided to make a course which would embed the software and make it available to as many students as we could get to. So we have ways of getting to our own students, but we needed a way to get to other people's students as well and employed people. So the connection there was via Cisco, who are a very global networking company. And we have close links with them. We've worked with them for many, many years. And we actually are part of their Networking Academy. And Andrew's a real major player in that.
Yes, so we've had a strong relationship with Cisco for over 15 years. They have an education program designed to enable and engage, and they recognise as well they have a challenge getting people from the basic knowledge there up to a level of understanding to be ready to take some of their courses. So they enabled us to use their software and their experience and their resources to build out the simulator based on some of their technologies, as well as providing supplemental support and outreach into their own community as well.
So it took us into a number of colleges, FE colleges, who are members of the Networking Academy at Cisco. And those are the links that we use to get testers for the project and users for the project, the teachers and the students at these colleges.
Yes, and it helped us then understand what was working well with the software, what needed improvement, and how to sort of drive the direction of the educational experience for the learners. Whilst we have considerable experience, FE college lecturers are the experts in this domain and helped us direct and hone the product to make it work best for any learner, whether they're in class or remote So So we broke the course down into two very distinct components. We started off with the home networking approach and then built it into the commercial networking approach. Why home networking? Well, from the zero to hero approach, we had to deal with something that the students were most likely to know, experience and understand, and would be probably available at their fingertips without any intervention from us or any further education colleges. But once they became competent with that, we then took them into the commercial networking technologies, where they started to discover there were common themes with home networking and commercial networking, and preparing them for the domain of employability and what industry skills they would have out there. And by doing that, we created a badged open course to give them the accreditation that they could use if they were looking to add this to their CV.
Yeah, there's much more that the students can now go on to once they've got this basic confidence, really, and knowledge, because there's a whole suite of qualifications that Cisco offers, and they're very highly respected in the field, and you can go right up to very high levels with them. So this really gets the students off the ground with moving through any additional training that they want to undertake or that their employers could support them with undertaking on, and they can do these things at colleges as well, and that's the networks that we're already in. And we also, at the Open University, we offer various networking courses as well, which they could go on to study. And we think the badged course gives them a really good foundation in this.
So one of the other approaches we took is most further education colleges, schools or whomever have qualifications dictated to them. They have to work with national qualifications. That is the way it is in the United Kingdom. However, they lack sufficient resource or content to enable them to deliver that. So by creating this badged open course and making it highly available for the individual as well as the organisation, they could then use this as underpinning content, like a virtual book, for want of a better analogy, that they could then help this teach their students. And then we did some work around signposting where this would link to nationally recognised qualifications and deliver enough skills that the students could become competent and complete other assessments if required.
As the UFI side project manager for ONL, I think the project was particularly of interest to us because it offers employability skills to a large number of people who have no prior networking skills. It also brought a unique HEI like the OU, which has an unusually high number of vocational learners, to work with a highly developed centre like the Cisco Academy, which itself has direct access to many learners as well. And in addition to that, the project is able to reach a substantial number of FE colleges. So in a sense, it brings together three types of educational institutions that make this particularly unique.
It's really important, and we tried really hard in this project to think about this, to design the learning experience for the students. You can't design learning, but you can design learning experiences, and you certainly should. So we had two separate types of learners in mind really all the time. One was a student in a classroom with a teacher and with other students around them. And the other one was the person typically working at home on their own whenever they could fit it in after work or whatever. And we thought about what would help those different kinds of people to learn effectively and the different ways in which that can be done. So we knew we had this experiential learning, this practice-based learning, because we had the software simulator that we could use. But we also knew that these were typically young people, so we wanted to use videos and screencasts. We knew that students like to do quizzes, perhaps if they're not too difficult, to add a little bit of fun to the learning. So we put all these elements in and we tried to mix them up so that in each session, a student would be doing a little bit of watching a screencast, a little bit of answering some questions, very, very minimal reading on the screen. So all of that was really important for us to think about. So we quite carefully came up with a structure for that, and I think it really worked.
Yes, following on from that, we use the principle of confidence, competence, and mastery. We had to give the students confidence that they were developing the skills, that they felt they were becoming competent, and every activity, every part of the journey was a mastery process. So everything they did in the simulator gave them the feedback that they were developing the skills and the understanding, and upping their complexity and upping the skills that they were acquiring stage by stage. And of course, the way the simulator worked, it gave them feedback, it gave them understanding, and it gave them a form of technical gratification, i.e., the thing worked, and therefore they had acquired the skills, hopefully the knowledge, and hopefully the understanding.
The other thing we tried to do, just to elaborate a little bit on how the teaching approach, is to have teachers present. So I mentioned students who would be in the classroom with a human, real-life teacher present, although that's not happening much at the moment. But in the teaching environment, we didn't tend to use videos, as in filmed videos of teachers, but we had the teacher's voice always, and we made sure we had photographs of the teachers at the beginning, so that hopefully the students could feel that there was somebody there teaching them. And we used a lot of different teachers, all of whom with significant networking experience. So there were a lot of different teacher voices in there for the students.
High availability and ensuring that you have the right platform for this is essential when you're trying to reach a large community of learners. At the Open University, we've invested considerably over many years, and we have platforms such as Open Learn and Open Learn Create to enable us to do this. We also developed cloud-based software using the Cisco simulator to ensure and enable that scalability and availability as well. We do not know when people are going to access this. We do not know how many people are going to access this, but we had to design a system that's sufficiently capable to scale and reach and offer that opportunity. And one of the benefits of this, which we discovered early in the lockdown, is this course was selected by UK government as part of the Digital Skills Toolkit, and we've had a large volume of individuals furloughed and otherwise accessing this. And I'm going to use a very non-technical term, they haven't broken it, it's still working. So we have a platform that should be able to cope with a few learners, hundreds of learners, and thousands of learners simultaneously.
One of the benefits, I think, to the OU team is that by working with FE colleges, they were able to understand, which often doesn't happen in the HE world, the kind of timescales and the context and the different funding and course type and range of students that FE colleges have. I think that was a real benefit to this team at the OU, and it certainly helped with another project that UFI is now working on with the OU, which I think that knowledge of FE has certainly played into.
At the Open University, we're always very conscious of making sure that learning is available to as wide a population as possible. So it's inclusive to all different kinds of people, some of whom might have disabilities, some of whom might be in prisons or so forth. So we're always having that in mind. And we were looking at a particular aspect of the simulator, which we wanted to improve to make it better for a wider group of people.
So this meant I went to the Royal National College for the Blind in Hereford. We've worked with them in the past, helping them develop their own Cisco Academy, and we asked them to work with us to critically test the software and the course. The course, no challenges. The software had some accessibility requirements that needed enhancing, and they gave us a list of opportunities, technical needs and ways we could improve this that we took to UFI to enhance the software as part of a seed funding bid. So the UFI seed funding enabled us to enhance the software and go through a set of enhanced tests and enhanced developments, making the software work for vision impairment and making it work for a range of screen reader technologies. So much so that Cisco and others are very interested in taking this forward into other domains, whilst they're yet to be agreed at the moment.
We support 10,000 youth workers across the country who support over 1 million young people a year. We've had to react very quickly, be very effective in how we get that training to grassroots organisations at the most challenging time ever. So the National Youth Agency is the national body for youth work across England. We're what's known as the professional statutory regulatory body, which means we set all the youth work quality and standards for the whole of the youth sector. We regulate the workforce, the involvement of young people, the quality of what is delivered out in the real world to young people, and we're there to support all the people who deliver youth work across England. The landscape for youth work has changed dramatically in the last 10 years. So in previous times, every local authority would have had a training manager who would have supported local part-time staff, local volunteers to all gain youth work skills. But in the last 10 years, with the austerity, the changes we've had, we've seen that change a lot. So we're now trying to provide a sort of national infrastructure with partners and stakeholders and young people across the country to create the capacity and ability to retrain adults in youth work. We ran a report with parliamentarians in 2019 that showed to us that 75% of the workforce have no formal qualifications or training. So this is 75% of over around 10,000 adults who support young people do not have the skills or basic training to do that role. And this is a massive challenge for us as a country, which we're trying to address as an organisation. And so the project that we initiated here was to create that mechanism in which we could get those skills levels back up.
I think because of COVID-19 barriers that were certainly introduced from the NYA perspective, but also as the sector, were the face-to-face. We traditionally, as youth workers, we deliver our training face-to-face, and because of the very nature of the work that we do, a lot of the assessments we had to go out to youth work providers and actually observe youth workers engaging with young people. So that was something that really presented a barrier to us, but not just also to us, but also to our learners. We're a very tangible in terms of organisation and group of practitioners, so we're very much hands-on. So for us to go from that to actually then to go to a digital platform did present some barriers across the sector.
So as an organisation, we were exploring the need to move training online and digital, and COVID's injected pace to that. What it's also done is enabled our end users to also have to move online in their general work, which has meant that we've been more successful this time around as well.
I think some of the key points that we had to factor into when we were actually taking a whole suite of qualifications and putting them online was to ensure that each individual learner felt as though it was personal to them. As we've said before, with youth workers, a lot of youth workers don't work full time as youth workers. Some of them it's an additional job, or it's a job that they're actually a career that they wanted to move into. So what was key was that when we put anything online, it was accessible. And we're not just talking about accessibility in regards to the timing, but also accessibility in terms of where people live. So a lot of people who live perhaps in rural areas may not have traditionally been able to come to and attend a face-to-face training session. So having it online and having the right content was absolutely key. And I think for us as well was to ensure that we had blended learning. So it wasn't just somebody putting on a computer screen and not having that personal sort of tutor relationship. So it was key that we introduced things like webinars, that we had blogs, that we were able to have that personal approach as well. And that was what was really crucial for NYA to be able to offer that across the whole of the sector. When COVID hit, we literally did. We responded straight away, and we sat down as a team, especially my team, the youth work specialists. We just sat down with Priya and with the rest of the guys to say, right, how do we make this work? So we literally just got the qualification, said we need to change this now because we have to be ready for when youth workers are ready to get back. And a lot of that content was really relevant for what was happening, you know, the vulnerabilities, digital youth work, detached youth work, safeguarding. So not only were we changing a whole suite of qualifications, we were really looking at what some of those key themes were that were actually going to help youth workers. As soon as we got the go-ahead from government to say, you guys can open, NYA were ready to say, right, here's the training, here's the support, both from an accredited perspective, but also from CPD as well. So there was a lot of information that we were able to support youth workers with.
We were already delivering training to grassroots youth workers. What the UFI platform has enabled us to do is to scale it up for the masses. And we've got plans over the next year or two to allow all 10,000 individuals in our sector to have free access to training and basic CPD. Another thing that was really important to us was the accessibility of it and being able to reach our 10,000 youth workers across the country. So with the support of UFI, we were able to develop an app that's connected to our system, that's available on Android and iOS, and it's free to download, and youth workers can access all the content, micro learning and resources as they go.
So I think from my perspective, in terms of project managing it, shifting from frontline delivery, face-to-face sort of interaction through to online delivery, getting a real understanding of the technology and the systems and processes that were needed to make that work in the most effective way so that the end user would still get the same experience from us on an online platform as they would do had we been in the classroom. Our initial feedback has been really promising. We've had really high response rates in terms of completions for our CPD courses. Our webinars, we're getting really great feedback, some great quotes from the learners, and engagement during those sessions seems to be really strong. And the team also seem to be enjoying kind of hosting those sessions as well, which is great.
The great thing about this project is it's enabled us to start small and scale up, and we gain confidence in that process, working with our coaches and the technical experts to support us. And we're absolutely, convinced that we can grow this to the heights it needs to be to meet the needs of all the young people, and that's ultimately who we're there for.
I mean, ultimately, this platform was all about how we can develop the capacity of youth workers. But again, with COVID, what's come along is there's a complete change now in terms of how we're delivering youth work at the moment. And what this has actually enabled youth workers to be is to actually develop those skills so that they can engage and they can communicate with young people. You know, for many years we've talked about, getting young people away from digital, sort of like Xboxes and get off WhatsApp and everything else as well. But actually, what we found is youth workers through this training have really been able to embrace their digital skills side. And, don't get me wrong, for some youth workers who've been youth workers for a while, that has actually been quite challenging because developing a brand new skill can be very scary for anybody. But I think what we found by easing people into a digital platform where they're learning has then in turn helped them when they're actually developing and shaping their digital offer to young people. And I think because we've combined that with the accredited courses, but then also with the support that we're giving youth workers online, so how to deliver youth work digitally safe, how to ensure that we've got safeguarding in place, how to ensure that you've got the correct licenses. It's kind of like been a knock-on effect, and we've really seen a really good reaction from young people to actually say, you are listening to us, and actually having face-to-face youth work and digital youth work works for all of us. So I do feel as though something that we didn't expect was a really positive knock-on effect from offering this digital training.
The benefit that this has had on youth workers is enabling them to have access to CPD courses and accredited training building a support network amongst themselves so they can talk to each other and share good practice, and also kind of safeguarding their own practice and making sure that they're delivering to the standards that they should be doing. And we've been able to do this through our online platform, and we've been able to deliver that to 10,000 youth workers.
Archaeological digs are really expensive to arrange and can only happen at certain times of the year. So the work that we're doing with Scottish Waterways Trust is to create a similar experience but in a VR environment. One of the focuses for Scottish Waterways Trust is to build confidence in young people, and the VR solution creates a safe environment for them to practice their assessments.
It means that the learner can learn in their own space, in their own place, anywhere, anytime. The potential is huge for our VR assessment technology to be used with other organisations in supporting their workplace learning. Some of the students may need a bit of a confidence boost, and the more that they practice before they can take the marked assessment is better. And it's a very practical way, a practical experience to be able to measure their competence.
Where we see VR assessments being used is to really capitalise on some issues with traditional assessments. We really want to see VR assessments being used to solve problems with lack of relevancy to work. When you're doing a paper assessment, you're not getting a true representation of whether that person is actually competent in the field, and specifically around vocational activities, because it's very hard for you to gauge how competent someone is at doing a vocational task. The benefits of VR assessments are that, one, we can combat lack of relevancy to work. We can see it from the learner's perspective, and thirdly, we've got a consistent manner of providing the exact same assessment over and over. Paper isn't a representation of someone's in the field knowledge.
So we are eCom Scotland. We develop innovative digital learning and assessment solutions developed in Scotland, and they drive workplace learning all over the world. Through the VocTech seed project, we had identified the need. But what we did identify that is a lot of the companies who could use VR effectively really felt that the cost and the development need was just too great a barrier to even consider the options. And that was why we decided that we would be able to take all that great the research that we had done through the seed project and really commercialise on that and get it out into a wider market.
As innovators in e-learning, eCom quickly recognised that there was a demand for taking traditional learning facilities such as face-to-face learning, lengthy induction courses, health and safety, and really transforming it and bringing a different view that was not only consistent and relevant to the workforce but also accessible. And virtual reality was seen as a great way to do that by giving opportunities to the users, the end users, to experience something in a safe environment that can be replicated and also certified against standards and compliance and competencies that are really important to organisations these days.
Once we identified that customers were telling us that they needed a simple, non-technical tool to create VR experiences, what we wanted to do was take all the learning that we'd brought from the seed project in developing a bespoke VR assessment and trying to tailor that in a way where we could create an authoring interface. So we started looking at all the different components that we used as part of that seed project, so that VR assessment that we built, and tried to segment all those different parts and make it into a framework that we could apply to a wider system that would allow users to log in, edit their own content, create and upload their own content, and ultimately be able to distribute their VR assessments without any third-party companies being involved.
I would say the most important thing that I took into consideration was how everything was laid out and how, like, where everything was like logically, so it was the most obvious place to place things. So through like using user feedback and then applying their feedback, we were able to find out where's the best place to place all the items, what terms were the most used by the users, and then apply that into the tool so it was more familiar for them when they came in to use it.
Probably the most common content types are just panoramic images, so 360 images taken either through dedicated 360 cameras or just Android phones taking panoramas and stitching them together. So you have like photospheres and panoramas. So if you had like a 180 panorama, that would still work in the tool. You can also put 360 videos as well. So just panoramic 360 videos would fit inside the tool as well.
This actually tied to some of our challenges, but ultimately as a platform, we're enabling people to create things, but at the end of it, we don't know exactly what our creators are going to be creating. And so we tried to make the platform as flexible as possible. So not only within the tool, what you could actually put into the tool, whether that be media type, etc., but then also the output. So whether that be on a mobile device, a desktop, or even a headset. Ultimately, I would say actually it's changed drastically even from when we started this project. And ultimately, the initial response was, oh, this seems so futuristic for us. We don't know if we can handle this. To once they actually start learning about it, to the point of actually this seems doable. And with COVID-19 and lockdown, it actually kind of pushed a lot of organizations into accepting this. And even pushing them into actually we need this. We didn't know we needed it, but we actually do. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the benefits and a lot of the research and development that we've put into this. And it all goes down to we really have made a product that's easy to use, making sure that you do not need to know how to code. I don't know how to code, and that is something that you can do with the tool, is just drag and drop, which is really nice. The fact that it's cost effective and you can actually reach people from all around the globe, no matter where you are. So obviously during lockdown, that was a big thing. Tracking compliance. So with traditional assessments, you don't always know or understand the capabilities of somebody when it's just written down on a piece of paper. You're actually able to track it and have reports that are generated. And then last but not least, that scalability and the fact that you can integrate it within your own systems.
The reason that a lot of businesses are wanting to use VR for a learning and assessment is to try and meet certain needs at certain times. And it might be that if they were to go for a fully outsourced VR scenario-based solution, that by the time it was ready, it could potentially be out of date by the time we're delivering it. We're needing, it's fast-paced, the technology is fast-paced, and the needs of businesses are now. They need things right away, especially nowadays. Rapid deployment. We just don't have, as you can see, how like time can just change so much. When during COVID, we ended up all working from home, and things had to quickly change. We have to be a lot more agile. So the authoring tool allows for organisations to be able to make quick pieces of learning that can be delivered really, really there and then. And that's the idea behind creating the authoring tool rather than using an outsourced solution.
Yeah, so if someone was to do it themselves, it would be following a similar process that you used for e-learning creation. You would go through a process of discussing with the customer what their remediations need to be. All of those remediations would need to be storyboarded. You would need to get a signed consensus that user both in agreement with the changes that need to go ahead. There might even be testing required to make sure that the changes are appropriate. And only at that point would then the change be able to go live. And that can take weeks. You've got to factor in that the company who's doing that piece of work might have other projects which are ongoing. So any remediations which could come in ad hoc, that's going to be scheduled into the work. So you could be talking a month. Whereas the idea with our system is they can just log in themselves at any point, update the content, they can review it themselves, and if they're happy, they can have those changes out same day and out to the learners straight away. So it changes a process which could take a month, 2 months, best case scenario weeks, into what could be an hour or two. That time saving makes it just makes it so much easier to work in an agile format, and it means that it doesn't become a big business process to make changes. Teachers, lecturers, and people who are actually using this content can update the content there and then. They can just upload a new 360-degree photo to, if they've had a change in the workshop and they want to update what the workshop looks like, they can just take a photo, upload it, and the students who are using that content the same day can get benefit of that.
Basically, when I go out, a lot of the questions are, how long is it actually going to take me to create something? And part of that is because a lot of organizations don't think that they have the time to do it themselves. But if you were to try and outsource it, it would take quite a lot longer, because we've broken it down into 4 steps, which is you upload your imagery, you build out your assessment, you share it, and then you can track it and look at your reports. And the nice thing about that is that you have full control over it, because a lot of times when you try to outsource or have somebody else do the work for you, you're trying to explain how you want things done or what you're actually trying to assess. Whereas if you're able to do it yourself, you can actually take a look at what are the capabilities of this tool, what am I actually trying to assess, and incorporate that.
Kind of COVID impact, we've become definitely become a borderless business now. So we've been attending virtual trade events all around the world. We've been attending events in America, showcasing this product. And in fairness, we've got, some of us have got young children, or got other family situations, so we wouldn't have been able to travel or commit to the resources. But we have been able to play on the same field and having these virtual events. And Tanya's been working the virtual booths, and Emma and I have been networking virtually, and Dean and Jay have also been on the booths, because it's nice to have the technical background there, not just like to hear from the people that actually developed it and the passion behind it. So we've got another event next week as well that we're all virtually attending. So the actual reach of this product could be huge, and there's nothing really stopping. There's no barriers to stop us for selling this around the world.